Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Insane in the Q&A featuring my special guest...
Sab Irene!
Yeah. I'm over here with Sab, taking a vacation to relieve myself from the stress and the trials and stuff that YouTube presents me, and we're still going to film a Q&A though, so I hope you're ready for approximately 20 minutes of that. As I've said before, this show is entirely fueled by your guys' comments and questions. If you got a question, leave it in the comment section below and I will probably answer it, or if it's for Sab, maybe she'll read my comments and she'll answer it.
Maybe.
Probably not. She's busy. On to the questions!
What?
Why are you not saying anything?
What am I supposed to say?
Osiralot writes, how did you and Sab meet? $3.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
So Carlos have been making YouTube videos for a while, and they had just released like the multiplayer project, and I was like talking to people afterward. I had like 20 subs at the time, and then
That's
like
a lot of sandwiches. I forget. I won't interrupt you anymore. Keep going.
Then I started messaging Carlos because I wanted to know more about like recording saxophone properly for covers and stuff. And then we just started talking and like getting to know each other more. And now we're good friends.
That's pretty much the entire story. One of the first times Sab messaged me, I was at a jazz camp and I didn't have like reception on my phone or something, and so I like added her. I don't know why not having reception on my phone equated to here, add me on my personal Facebook account, but I don't know. Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. I literally have a screenshot of it because I was like so taken aback. I was like,
Since then, we have done many things together. We even made a collaborative album called Weebop. I almost don't want to advertise it to you, but if you are all
don't buy it.
If you're at all interested, the links will be in the description. And probably a card right there. MisterManuva writes, I have a question for both you and Sab Irene. What advices would you give someone trying to be a multi-instrumentalist? And how do you think it is better to approach the process of learning a new instrument? I am a guitarist and I would one day like to learn to play piano/keyboard and hopefully saxophone. But I am a bit afraid of the frustration of being a beginner again. What do you think?
What do I think? So I am a multi-instrumentalist, which is in huge air quotes. I think the best way to go about it is do it with music that you like. Like when I first picked up the flute, I like looked at a fingering chart and then I was just playing video game music so that it keeps you interested and engaged, so that you can look forward to like learning the stuff that you like on a new instrument.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the best ways to learn an instrument in general, and I've recommended this to a lot of other people who have asked me similar questions, is play music... Just watching you nod is funny. Play music that you like already and that you like already know in your head, because then that gives you like an extra layer of knowing when you've made a mistake. Because it's one thing to realize when you've made a mistake in terms of like the form of playing the instrument, but it's another thing when you're playing the tune wrong, but if you don't know the tune, you might not notice that you're playing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
Vasco writes, a question for Sab Irene. What would you like to do after college? I know you are in music ed, and it would be awesome if you continue sharing more of what you learn with us. I am fascinated by the way music is taught and learned, and it's cool to see people who have passion for it follow their dreams.
Aww.
What a nice guy. Or girl, or capital V.
What a nice person.
What a nice cereal box.
Oh my god. What I want to do is I would love to teach like younger kids, like elementary school, because
like me.
No. Because a lot of those kids are being put in a situation by their parents where they're like, you need to learn an instrument, and then they don't like it. So if I can make them enjoy it despite like joining because their parents want them to, it's really great. And I also want to be able to extend stuff to online through my YouTube channel, because a lot of people don't have access to music programs because they're cut from budgets a lot. So if I could still provide them with the knowledge that they're seeking, and they don't have to like pay for it or like fight for it in their school system or anything like that, just so that they can have the accessibility easy, because a lot of people have internet access. So
a lot of people have it or don't have it?
Do have it.
Oh. Okay.
It'll be
That's
good to provide that for them. So yeah.
Someday we'll do a collaborative, like Sab and I will have a collaborative video game music theory channel.
Oh my god, yes.
And I'll do
Can we do that?
I'll do the jazz side and everything will be in the stupid font. And then you'll do like the classical side and everything will be like Times New Roman.
Ew, that's boring. I can't use Muse Jazz?
No, you can't use Muse Jazz.
Fine, I'll use Avenir. That's my typical font.
Okay. Alright, you can read this question.
I get to read a question! Vanilla Elf asks, hey Carlos and Sab, what are your thoughts on Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? I personally was hoping for a Diamond and Pearl remake instead of another Sun and Moon game, but whatever. Also, I forget what this is. Less than 3, you guys.
Was that really that hard to read?
I couldn't remember what it was called.
This is why we don't have you read the question. First off, you guys know how big of a fan I am of Gen 4. And she is just as big of a fan of Gen 4 as I am. And honestly, I was hoping that they wouldn't announce a Gen 4 remake. I think it's a little bit too soon for that. I would honestly rather wait to see it on the Switch, and it seems like that's going to be likely because with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon coming out, probably going to be the last iteration of Pokemon 3DS games. Then Pokemon has confirmed that they're developing a new Pokemon game for the Switch, and it would make sense for after that one perhaps that we'll get Diamond and Pearl remakes, which would be even better because, you know, the fact that they're putting a Pokemon game on a console, like an actual high-powered console, gives me hope. And Pokemon Reorchestrated pointed this out on Twitter a while ago. Did I say Twitter? Twitter. Anyway, he pointed this out that there is more potential for like a fully recorded soundtrack, not just like a MIDI soundtrack for
That'd
Pokemon.
Be so cool.
It
could happen.
Imagine if they did that for Diamond and Pearl.
I would cry.
I mean, I'm gonna cry whenever they announce it, and probably at every subsequent trailer right afterward. But I'm looking forward to that. What do you think about Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon?
I think it's interesting. Like, I'll obviously still get it because I love Pokemon and I love Nintendo.
Yeah.
But I was talking with one of my brothers about it because I played Pokemon because of my brothers, and I was like, I really wanted, like, Diamond and Pearl remakes, and he's just like, well, he's like, you have to remember, they're trying to, like, build up the nostalgia as much as possible. He's like, there's not an exact science to it because, we had Heart Gold, Soul Silver, like, only 2 generations after the original came out. Meanwhile, like...
Really?
Yeah, because that was a Gen 4 style game, because after Diamond and Pearl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But ORAS didn't come out for 11 years until after. So, again, it's not an exact science. I think they just do it when it's right and after enough time has passed where they're, like, really pushing all this new content out. And then they're like, hey, here's a blast from the past for ya.
Well, Diamond and Pearl is like 10 years old.
Yeah, it's 10 years old
North
this year.
American is 10 years old this year.
So I think they're gonna wait a little bit longer, but when that happens, I'm probably gonna, like, die. Like, I already did when RSC came out because that was my first Pokemon game, but like, I'll probably, like, cry out of happiness for a solid hour.
And I'll probably finally release the Gen 4 album.
Maybe I'll do a cover.
I never
Maybe I'll do a cover.
Don't hold me to what I just said. Halyska?
Yeah.
Halyska, Halyska asks, could you outline the process behind choosing songs to perform, especially from those recommended by viewers, since I'm sure there are a lot?
You can speak more to this than I can.
Yeah, so if you don't know, I do have this form in the description where you can like submit any song that you want me to, that you might request that you might want to request for me to arrange. The thing about that is, with the nature of the work that we do, just because we take our music very seriously, and there are some channels on YouTube that do a lot of like meme content.
Yeah.
I mean, and that stuff is very creative, but just from a different way, not necessarily musically creative, more like creative to appeal to the masses or to appeal to those who are not musicians. The way we tend to do it, and some others in our community, is we almost always do our best work when we're working on a song that we want to do, like, from
that has some sort of sentimental value.
Sentimental value or significance from inside of us. And the problem with requests is that I have not necessarily played every game that you're going to request a song from, and of course you're not going to do it either.
Way less.
So a problem I've been running into for the past year or so is just trying to find a balance between requests and the songs I want to do, because as you might guess, requests, I can't even talk. As you might guess, requests tend to get better viewership because, people are actually asking for those specific songs, and when you give people what they ask for, they watch
respond.
it. Yeah, which, that's good for the YouTube channel. But the problem is that sometimes those are the songs that
you're unhappy with.
Yeah, that I'm unhappy with, that I look back a week later and ask, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any specific songs for that. I'm just going to say that does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
What about you?
So for those of you who don't know this about me, I don't take requests. I never have, and I don't think I ever will. And that's something that you probably can quote me on because
I'm a strong, independent, pale woman.
I mean, my philosophy is, when I started this channel 4 years ago when I was a dummy,
You're not a dummy.
I'm a dummy. I was a doof. Anyway, when I started this channel, I was like, I want this to be stuff that I like. It was that simple.
Yeah,
and
I think I started off that way too.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, as you grow to be more well-known, I'm gonna put it, because it's not necessarily quantity, it's just how more well-known, like how many more people can recognize your content or view your content. You have a lot more than I do. But needless to say, subscribers don't really matter in terms of like quantity. Of course your subscribers matter because they're supporting you and your content, but I just don't think it's worth it to do a song just because someone told me to. If it happens to be like I did it and someone requested it a long time ago, it isn't because they requested it. I just happen to be like, oh, you know, this is a great song, but I'm only gonna be happy if I do the stuff that I want, because that's the stuff that I get so excited to like put out the video for.
Yeah, an interesting case of this is yesterday on the E3 trailer, the Super Mario Odyssey theme was teased, and I've gotten at least like 15 messages about that to like to cover it with Adrosaurus, who has sung in some of my previous videos. And a question I asked someone in my Discord the question I asked was, why would you want to see me arrange this song if it's already like, you know,
in that style,
if it's already jazzed up?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, there are some songs that I have done before that are already jazz styled, but I mean, I think it all boils down to having a really good idea for a song.
Yeah.
And that's what's really hard to maintain consistently with requests, is that because you don't have the personal affiliation with the song, you don't know the song as well, and then it's harder to come up with a good idea for it.
Yeah, and part of it's being cover artists, it's about our interpretation, which is really hard for a lot of people to see, and that's not their fault. Like, I get it, but why would you want to hear a cover of the original if you could just listen to the original? Like, you would want to hear it in a way that the cover artist that you enjoyed wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic for just cover artists in general. So if you are a cover artist who does,
weigh in the comments.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Who does similar things to us? Weigh in the comments. Here, you can read this one.
I get to read another one. Redemption. Mike V said, thanks for the informative Q&A, exclamation point, colon, parenthesis. I have a question, colon. How do you and Sab each go about starting your arranging process, parenthesis, particularly writing parts, parenthesis, question mark? Do you look up sheet music for your reference, comma? Do you learn the tune by ear, comma? Or something in between, question mark?
Is that how ridiculous I sound when I read these?
Yes. So wait, what was the question?
How do we start our arranging process? Okay, so the way I do it is, I used to look up sheet music on places like Nin Sheet Music, which I still do sometimes because they are a very excellent resource for having basic transcribed versions of the sheet music that we like, of the songs that we like to arrange. More lately, I've just been transcribing them myself because I think that gives a bit more, you understand the song a bit more, like a bit better when you digest it. And when you force yourself to listen to it for a long time and I digest each of the things and assign a musical label to whatever is going on.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. How I go about it is usually it's very random. Or if I'm like listening to a song, I just try and think of a style that I like it in, but I always write out my own sheet music. Sometimes I'll use Nin Sheet for reference because, again, it's really good. Or if I'm really stuck on something, I'll consult them before I have to, like, you know, bother Carlos and be like, what are the chords?
That happens very often, actually.
It does. But I usually have him, like, check through everything to make sure I didn't completely butcher it. But usually I just kind of like listen to stuff. I'm like, oh, this would be cool like this, and then I write out the sheet music myself in MuseScore. So.
Yeah, I do the same thing. If you don't know already,
it's free.
MuseScore is fantastic free software for writing sheet music. I've been using it for the past like 8 years now, ever since ever since middle school. There are certain things it cannot do, but
it's pretty good for free software.
For the sheet for the sheet music that I write and the sheet music you write, we haven't hit the ceiling yet where we like need different software to be able to like execute the things you want. Yeah, so it's awesome. It's a bit difficult to get started with in terms of like learning how to make your scores look really good. I might do a tutorial on engraving someday, but that's a very specific thing that I'm not sure how many people would be interested in. But anyway, we listen to the song and we basically come up with the idea in our heads. That's just
then just arrange it in MuseScore.
Yeah, MuseScore. That's pretty much it. Sean081799 writes, here's a question. What do you recommend, both musically and technology-wise, for people just beginning to get into jazz covers and stuff? I'm pretty sure I have the musical ability, but will lack the technology requirements. A non-M audio keyboard, a poor microphone, etc. Okay, so I've answered this in a previous Q&A, but the most important thing is, if you are thinking about video game covers, the most important to do is to start making them regardless of the equipment you have.
Yep.
Because no matter what you have, there's always some way that you'll be able to make something, you know?
Yeah.
Like even if it comes down to you playing the song on your piano and recording it with like your phone's microphone, that's better than nothing.
I use my laptop webcam to record piano covers for like I would say 2 years on my channel before I even got a cable.
And you know your first covers are gonna suck anyway. Like that's a given. They're always gonna suck. So you might as well get started.
But it's a starting point that you learn to grow from.
You might as well start sucking sooner. You can quote.
Insane in the Ring.
Feel free to quote me on that out of context.
I would recommend Reaper for. Like a DAW.
Yeah.
Or if you have a Mac, GarageBand is fine, but Reaper's good because it's free.
Yeah, Reaper and GarageBand are Audacity to some extent are some. Reaper's the best, but Audacity and GarageBand are both good entry level.
We are not sponsored by Reaper.
I wish I was. They are both good entry level digital audio workstations. The Blue Yeti USB microphone is something I recommend to almost everybody.
It's only like $100.
It's about $100 to $150 depending on where you buy it and how good condition it is when you buy it. But that is the microphone I started off my channel with, and
I still use it.
Yeah, it is for the price and for the fact that it's a USB microphone, meaning you don't need to have an audio interface or mic cables or anything like that. It's a very solid microphone that'll take you pretty far until you feel the need to upgrade. Zero asks, this is for both of you. What is your favorite scale to hear? Odd question, but mine is C sharp major. I like G flat Lydian.
I like F sharp major. I'm simple.
It's basically the same thing as mine, just different. G flat is a very good key. I don't know why I like it so much.
Sounds
There's
really
probably
nice.
I don't really think it makes sense to have a favorite key. Like, I think it's because we associate them with some song we've heard in the past, or some song we know is in G flat major.
Yeah.
Or honestly, I just kind of like the way it feels on a piano.
Yeah.
I really like.
In the Basement by Anna Monoguchi's an F sharp major, and that's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
It sounds very pretty.
Yeah. I mean, all keys one key
it's all
is
about
not,
association.
It's all association. One key is not intrinsically different or better than any other. That's what I say.
Ninja Zane 7474 asked, question for both of you guys. I played trumpet in my high school jazz band and I'm thinking about trying a woodwind instrument. Which one would you recommend and why? So you play trumpet. Most people I know, if they play trumpet, the woodwind they play is flute because they're the most closely related. I played saxophone primarily, but I played trumpet in high school, and those are very different. It's not impossible, it's just that the embouchures are super different. But what's good about flute and trumpet is that like the buzzing, because there's a little bit of buzzing on flute, and just like the way how it's like very dependent on air to change the pitch more than like the actual buttons, like with saxophone and clarinet.
Yeah.
But you know, you can, like I would say clarinet is not the best option. I would say flute or saxophone would be okay if you play trumpet, because trumpet and saxophone both have the air going like this.
One thing that you have going for you on clarinet is that you'd read the same sheet music. Same with tenor saxophone.
Yeah.
Is that you wouldn't have to transpose and you would have the same notes.
But transposition makes you a better musician.
That is definitely true. So if you played alto sax, you would just have another skill set. I wouldn't recommend starting off on bari or soprano, just because those are some of the more extreme saxophones and a bit more difficult to learn. But yeah, flute is probably the best, then clarinet and saxophone in the middle. Tanzy Blade asks, do you have any tips for recording wind instruments? I guess is this my question?
It's more your question. I can chime in.
So I spent a long time trying to figure out the best way to mic my saxophone. And there were some periods of time where I was just not happy with my tone at all. I did find a good position, but in the process of searching, I also realized that you can't get a good tone out of your microphone if your saxophone tone isn't good to begin with.
Yeah.
Which is probably the number one thing when it comes to recording, is that the source needs to be as good as possible. The microphone will not make you sound any better than you do in real life RWP.
Yeah.
It's always going to be either the same or slightly worse, and you want to minimize that fall off as much as possible. So what I've come to use in my videos mostly is I use this. It's up here, but you can't see it. It's the Bluebird XLR microphone by Blue Microphones, the same company that makes the Blue Yeti. This is just like a more upgraded version. And I keep it upside down. No, that does not flip the sound upside down. I mean, it might flip the phase, but whatever. But I have the capsule of the microphone pointing at right about the the G sharp key on the saxophone. That's what I try and aim for, because I think that gives you the best balance in terms of the high register and the low register. A common mistake that is made is that people will point it right into the bell, which works on brass instruments because that's like where where the sound comes out of. But on a woodwind instrument, sound is coming out of the holes and out of the bell, so you have to find a good place to mix everything. And I think you do something similar.
Yeah, so when I'm home, like not in college, I literally put a book on my bed and then I put the mic on that book so that it's stabilized. And
It works?
It works, and it's like pointed. It's not pointed inside the bell. It's like, here's, like, my bell's curved like this, and then, like, here's the saxophone. I'm a few feet away because I mostly play tenor. But even for alto, it's the same thing. And, like, the thing about mic positioning is that, like, you can get a pretty good constant, but there are times where you're gonna have to shift it a little bit because using the same setup every time and, like, the same EQ and stuff, like, it can be good, but you have to remember that there are variable things that happen with your tone on instruments, so you just have to account for that.
That is true, especially, like, I definitely use slightly different mic positions for different types of songs. Like, if I've learned that if I want something to sound more, funky or brash, I tend to point the capsule... I point the capsule down more towards the bell because you get a better mix of that sound from the bell, which is a lot more abrasive, I think. And if in contrast, if I'm going for something smoother, I'll usually angle the microphone up so it's more pointing away from the bell, and I get more of the nice sound of the upper stack. Computer Crash Music asks, okay, so I have 2 questions. Period. 1, why tenor sax? 2, when did you start playing? Actually, okay, I realized that I don't actually read the punctuation, but it's kind of fun to do. I might do that in the future.
Don't do that.
So why tenor sax for me specifically? So I answered this in the previous Q&A. I feel like I've said that a bunch of times. You should watch the previous Q&As. There's a playlist in the description. But I started off playing bari sax in middle school, and on my first day of high school jazz band, after auditions, my director put me on tenor saxophone, and my first day in jazz band was the first day I ever played tenor saxophone, so you could say in a way I was forced onto it. But after being forced onto it, I came to like it because I think tenor sax has the best range out of any of the conventional saxophones out there, because it has a decent low end. It goes down to low B flat, which is pretty nice. It could always go, like, you always wish it could go lower, but that's why we have the bari. But I don't feel it's limiting in any sort of way. And for the high register, it's extendable with altissimo. And the limitations there are just that you need to practice more. It's not like you can't get any lower. I think it has a very nice overall range that sort of matches like the male voice. I think. I mean, it's tenor, and so it matches the tenor range of males. What about you?
So it was why tenor and...
Yeah, well, why tenor first off?
So I played alto saxophone a couple months before high school because I was like, band seems interesting because I didn't do band up until high school. And then when I was going to junior year, I was like, I need to focus on saxophone. I have to stop doing trumpet and ensembles. So I decided to do tenor saxophone for jazz because I just like that better than like alto. Jazz alto I'm not a big fan of. So I decided to do tenor. Had never played it before, but I always had an interest in it, like in high school. And I went in, did my jazz audition, and my band director's like, "Would you want to do it for wind ensemble?" And me never having been in wind ensemble was like, they're like, look, let us know by the end of the day, and if you don't like it, we'll put you back on alto. I never went back to alto until now because it's required for college, but I just loved playing tenor saxophone. Again, range is beautiful, and I just feel it better suits me. Like, I'm readjusting to alto and seeing how, like, playing on a good alto saxophone, because the one I had was really bad. So, it's just good to get to do that.
So the second part of the question is, when did you start playing? For me, I started in the summer between 5th and 6th grade, so about 8 years ago.
When you started playing saxophone?
Yeah, well, saxophone in general was 8 years ago, and at that point I was playing alto. Then I went to bari in middle school, then tenor in high school.
Like I said before, I started saxophone a bit before my freshman year of high school, and I started on alto, then I switched to tenor halfway through my junior year, and then back to alto at towards the end of my freshman year of college.
AustinPlays asks, I'm a sax player / multi-instrumentalist who will be attending Berklee starting this fall in the class of 2021. What advice do you have in terms of making the best of your experience there / what did you wish you knew when I got there, or when you got there? Also, as someone who plays many instruments, how do you recommend practicing some of your weaker instruments while remaining competitive on your main, especially in an environment like Berklee? So this question is mainly for me, but I included it because I think Sab would have some good information regarding just how to make the most out of your college experience at a music school in general. Let's see, things I wish I knew when I went to Berklee. Interesting question. I feel like this is a video I would make in like 4 years from now when I'm done, or 3 years, I guess. One is, the experience is entirely what you make of it. Berklee will not make you famous. No music school will make you famous. The reason that a lot of famous people come out of there is because they are able to apply themselves and extract as much knowledge as possible from the teachers that they are surrounded with. And that's something I think we can all do better, is just taking more advantage of the opportunities we're given, especially in an environment like that. My saxophone teacher for the first semester, his name is Jackie Beard. Yeah, he's funny. I am very glad he was. If you're a saxophone student, I recommend him as your first semester teacher, by the way, because he gave me good insight into the proficiency exam and how to practice for the final exam for your first year of your first semester of private lessons. Learn how to manage your time effectively. College effectively forced me to start scheduling out my entire day the day before I go to bed, just because like the schedule, unlike high school, the schedule is always a little bit different each day. So you have to understand how you can make the best use out of all the pockets of time that you have when you're not in classes or practicing.
Okay, so getting the most out of your college music school experience. So Berklee and Boston University are very different environments.
She goes to Boston University.
I do. I am a music education major at Boston University, and I study with Jennifer Bill, who is phenomenal. She has definitely made me better, and I look at how I used to practice, and I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know anything. But making the best in terms of the environment that you're in, get to know people.
Yeah.
People are there to help you out. It's a competitive environment, like, depending on, I think, what instrument you do, honestly.
Yeah, if you think of it too much like a competition, you're not going to have a very fun time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, my studio, the undergraduates, there are only 5 saxophonists, and we all know each other, and we get along, and we have a great time. Just connect with the people around you, get to know them. Don't treat it like a competition, like Carlos said, because then you're going to be stressing. Like, get to know these people. They're passionate about music just like you are, and they can give you a lot of insight onto how to practice, just music in general. These people come from all over the world, and they give you a lot of insight on really life in general. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, if they're at the same music school as you and they play the same instrument as you, or even if they don't, like, the fact that they're at music school means something about their personality.
And it means something about, like, who they are. Like, they wouldn't be in music school if they didn't care about music or they didn't want to pursue it. So, like, they clearly have the ability to be there, and they have the passion to be there.
He also had a little bit of, how do you recommend practicing some of your weaker instruments? Honestly, there aren't as many opportunities to really use those, but, just schedule them into your practice time whenever you can, or try and find opportunities when you can play them. Like, I've had to play, piano is like my secondary instrument, but I've had times where I've had to play piano for some other people's projects, and that's fine. So try and
collaborate.
Try and find experiences in which you will need to use your secondary
collaborate.
Instrument. Yeah, okay.
Continuing with the theme of collaboration, ThePopStarDude asked, my question for you and Sab is, with collaborated covers on YouTube, how does the arranging and mixing process differ from regular covers? Do you get feedback from the collaborator on the arrangement? Do you get specific directions for them? Or is it more freeform?
That's a fantastic question, and there are a lot of different answers. Why don't you go first?
Oh, okay. So I think it depends, honestly, with the nature of the collaboration. Like, if it's something where it's really quick and thrown together, it's usually just, here, play this part, and then you kind of take over if it's like your project primarily. But when you have more time, like, I personally like to, like, I'm talking with someone about doing a collaboration right now. I'm not gonna say who or what it is, but we were talking about ideas for things. So, like, it was more of an exchange of ideas, and then it's going to be a lot of going back and forth between recording and mixing. So I think it depends on how much time you have and how much time your collaborator has, because those are huge factors. Because if they're really busy and they're just doing a quick part for you, it's literally going to be they record it for you, they give you everything, and you take care of the rest.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between a true collaboration in which you which both parties have say on the arrangement and the structure of the song.
Which is hard to do nowadays because everyone's so busy.
Oh my gosh, there's like the busier, like it's so much. The reason why that doesn't happen as much is just because it's so much easier to call up somebody and say, hey, can you play this part for me?
Yeah.
And also, like, if you're not really already friends with the person, it makes it a bit more difficult to, you know, communicate with them freely about what your ideas for the arrangement are.
Yeah.
Typically, when I do my arrangements, a lot of my collaborations are honestly just here play a part, just because I am so busy with all the stuff I have to do on my channel.
Yeah.
Some ones I can think of off the top of my head are Ryan Lafford on Route 209 and the guitar parts on the Shovel Knight medley. Those are more of just here's a part, play that. One that I can think of that was pretty involved, I think, was the Family Jewels, my collaboration with Ape Brigadier and Family Jewels
for the Conquer's Bad Fur Day medley.
The Conquer's Bad Fur Day medley. That's pretty old, but that one did have a lot of, I think it had a lot of input on both sides.
Yeah.
Just because that one was for a project that had a longer time span than just a week. Doing collaborations, doing very involved collaborations in which you get feedback from the collaborator is very difficult to do if you don't plan in advance with weekly covers. The most recent one I did, Green Hill Zone, with Nick Smith. He's actually my college roommate for next year, so we were already friends and we can discuss things pretty easily. But we had a lot of back and forth on what specifically he should do during the solo, what kind of tone he should use, you know. And getting more details out of your collaborator is always great, because then you can help ensure that the final product will actually be really good.
And it's good to know for future collaborations.
Oh yeah, and it's just better because you make friends.
Yeah, real quick, adding on to like collaborations that were like truly collaborations versus not. So like, I'm doing something with Rashadi B, which will be out by the time that this Q&A is out. Like that was literally just, hey Rich, can you do this for me?
No.
No. He said yes.
No.
Which is why it's collaboration. But it was literally just, hey, could you do this? He checked with me once to make sure that the tone that like was good, but then otherwise like Route 113 was much more involved with every single collaborator. Like they gave me inputs on the mix and everything and really let me know like, oh, well, like this might not work, but this could work. So it was a lot of back and forth.
Those types of collaborations are just so much more rewarding and fun.
And the charity album things are usually like that.
Yeah, just I think it comes down to like the timeline. You know? If you're crunched for time,
timing for everyone involved.
Yeah, like collaborations, I try to give them like at least a week to record their parts, you know? And like I give myself like a day to record my parts, because
I'm like, here's 2 weeks.
Have as much time as you need while I subject myself to torture.
Because you gotta get them everything so that they know what they're playing.
Yeah, and
that's another thing. Preparing a backing for them.
Yeah, a backing track, a good part. Oh my gosh, good sheet music, and not giving them.
There's
MIDI.
A lot.
I mean, okay. Well, some people read MIDI, right?
Oh my god.
I'm gonna spoil Rashadi B on the internet. He doesn't read sheet music.
Most guitarists read MIDI.
Yeah.
That's a huge generalization, but from my personal experience, that's what I have found.
Most like electric guitarists read MIDI and tab, but it's really hard for non-guitar players to make tab.
But yeah, so it's a lot of elements.
You said a lot about that one.
It's a lot of elements. That's the point. A lot of things that you need to take into account for collaborations, which is why it's good to communicate with the people to see what works for them. But it's hard to get like the true nature collaborations that like we used to see, because everyone is so busy now.
Yeah.
But you know, you make it work, and it's always good to play a part for someone because you still get involved with their work.
Yeah,
so
and
it's nice.
And it's you still show up on the other person's YouTube channel, you know. So it's decent exposure, but again, in the end, it should be about making friends.
Exactly.
And that's all the time we've got for the Insane in the Q&A number 3. Thank you to my lovely person sitting next to me for joining me with this Q&A.
Yeah, of course.
Did you learn anything?
No.
Great.
No, I always learn a lot, because it gives like even listening to myself talk, I'm like, wow, I'm like, that's a good idea that I should put into practice myself.
I've noticed that too. And by the way, she's doing a lot of the editing of these Q&As, so she's probably going to be sifting through this footage later. So
torture.
She gets an extra pat on the back for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, consider leaving a comment for any question that you think would be good for me to answer that would help benefit the community overall. Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!